Hello everyone, welcome to today's Tide Talk. Today we have Mayor Khan of Irvine. Please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you. It's so great to be here with all of you to talk a little bit about my journey and really all the work that goes on in the city and how it affects you and maybe what you're going to do in the future. So we're going to start off with just a little bit of background about myself. I was actually first elected in 2018 on the Irvine City Council. And then in 2020, I ran for mayor for the city and was elected to that seat. In 2022, was re-elected as mayor for the city of Irvine. So this is my final term. We do have term limits, so 2 terms for mayor. And so this December, I'll be terming out and looking at some more adventurous stuff to do. So just background, it's not easy to run for citywide office, and I wanted to share the importance of having representation that really reflects what the community needs. And so for me, it was always about knowing what's happening in the community, being out at community events, talking to people all the time, and really reflecting those needs into the platform that I presented. And I think that was important for our communities because we were able to accomplish so much more together than if I were just to run and think about, what's popular at the time. So what do I do? There's a lot that happens. If people follow me on social media, they think that I just go to events and take pictures. That's not it. Most of the work happens within the office, and it has a lot to do with the zoning and land development. Any development that's happening in the city goes through the city council. So we get to decide where homes are going to be built versus where commercial or retail properties are going to be built. What do they look like? We work with developers very closely, work with them to make sure that we're accommodating for our community's needs. As you all know, affordable housing is a big issue right now because there isn't enough. And so we work very closely with our developers to make sure that they're delivering on our needs. And so one of the projects you probably have seen at the marketplace, they're building some residential units there. They're building about 1,621 units. And what we were able to negotiate with the Irvine company was that 29.1% of those units will be at an affordable rate. And that's a high number because in our city, we have a 15% requirement of affordability, but this is the highest that we've ever been able to get a developer to commit to. And that's a number that's pretty much up and down the state. We've been the first to be able to reach that goal. And so hopefully more cities will work closely with their developers to make sure that we are building affordability into new developments that are coming in. We hire the city manager, the city clerk, and the city attorney. Those are the 3 hires that we as a council get to do. And then the city manager pretty much hires the rest of the staff. And that's important because really it's our delegation of the city manager to do his job and running all the different departments. The city attorney is really there to make sure that we're doing everything within our legal boundaries. And the city clerk helps me conduct the city council meetings and takes care of a lot of the paperwork and the PRA requests. These are public record requests that the public usually asks for. And then, of course, setting the budget. We're on a 2-year cycle. So every 2 years, we're setting the budget for the next 2 years, making sure that we are looking at the revenues coming in, the expenses, and that we actually have reserves saved for emergencies. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, addressing the needs of the community, that is very, very important. I mean, all of these things are important, but for elected officials, it's important to know what the needs of their communities are. And the only way you figure that out is really being in the community. So showing up at community events, having conversations with people, whether it's in the parks or at a coffee shop. I try to make myself very accessible so people can reach out to me via email or social media. They can call my office, but I also am out and about in the community. So I host Coffee with the Mayor events. I host community events. I co-sponsor community events with folks just to make sure that I'm hearing what's going on. And one of the most important components of my job, I felt, was being out with the youth. And so I definitely have made my rounds through all of our schools, elementary, middle, and high schools, and a few preschools as well, really to hear from you what you'd like to see in the future. I mean, what is it that you need in your city? And so knowing that helps me make those decisions at the city council meetings even better. And of course, public safety, transportation. We talked a little bit about affordable housing and leading council meetings. It's not easy to lead a council meeting with 4 other colleagues that have different views, and then of course the public is there. But it is important for us to do the business of the city, and we do it at the council meetings with our set agenda. And that's also a time where the public is able to come in and share anything that they feel that we should know about. So you get 3 minutes to come and speak during public comments, and that's really what sparked my interest in the beginning. Was I was showing up during our council meetings, speaking up during those 3-minute comments. But the difference was I didn't feel that there was a response coming from the elected officials at the time, which really kind of spurred my interest in wanting to run. So the community is so important, whether it's cultural events, whether it's neighborhood HOA events, whether it's just a group of people that have a question. I'm definitely out there talking to people on a daily basis. And that's important because I want the community to also feel like they have a connection to City Hall. And we have invited the community into City Hall on many occasions. So we host a lot of our Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts to come in and get a tour of the city. We get delegations from all over the world that come into the city. And also our neighbors. We had a group of senior citizens that were very concerned about a fitness program that they felt wasn't robust enough. And so I would see these ladies at different events. And so we invited them into City Hall, had a conversation with our staff to really help them get to where they needed to be and make sure that we were understanding their needs. And that's important. So when I first got elected in 2018, City Hall felt like a closed door, right? It was only for those wanting to do business, and that was it. We kind of opened that up. We turned City Hall into an art gallery as well. So every quarter, our art is changing, and we're inviting the community in to come in. We're inviting them to city council meetings, to events that are happening at City Hall to make it more accessible. And I want to kind of talk a little bit about how important it is connecting our tech startups, because right after the pandemic, I was hosting roundtable discussions with different business groups and asking them what their needs were so that we, as we were getting federal funding or state funding, we could help them get back on their feet. And one group that we had a discussion with was our startup community. And they were like, look, we're here. We get invited by Nashville and other cities with funding to come out there with free rent, and we don't get anything here in California. And so we made sure that we invited people from the federal, state, and county levels to come talk about the importance of keeping our startups here, making sure we're reinvesting in our startups to keep them here, to help them thrive, because a lot of that talent ends up leaving because of funding from investments from outside, whether it's from Boston or Silicon Valley. They'll come in, they'll invest in our startups and take them away. And so we were seeing that brain drain happening here. So what we really did was brought in our venture capitalists and tasked them with the opportunity to reinvest in our local startups right here. And that really shifted the narrative of, this brain drain that everyone was leaving to, we want to stay here because we're finding opportunities right here. And that was important for us. And then innovation hubs. It was important to make sure that we had places where people can go with their ideas and get the resources and support they needed. So Sunstone Management is an amazing company that we have here. We started an innovation hub with them. It was a public-private partnership. I believe they're going to be launching this December. And they are raising funds to make sure that our residents can go to Sunstone, apply to be a part of their innovation hub, apply to their accelerator program, get the funding they need, get the support they need, and really be able to establish their new business. The other one that we started was with Sarah Cap Cares and with Karma Automotive. And so Karma Automotive had this huge complex, and they had a lot of space in there. And Sarah Cap Cares was looking at an idea of creating an innovation hub just for women. So if you guys don't know, when it comes to startups and new businesses, women are funded the least. And so we wanted to make sure that we were raising funds to specifically help women entrepreneurs gain that capital that they needed to start their business. And so through that partnership, we were able to utilize space at Karma Automotive, use Sarah Cap Cares, their venture capitalists, use their model and bring it together. And I know early next year, they're going to be launching with their first cohort. And so that's another way that we're making sure that we're opening up those resources to everyone. Designing and building events, again, it comes from really keeping an ear to what's going on in the community and where their needs are. One of the things that we did during one of our roundtable discussions was we focused on our small business community. So that's your local restaurant, your local small mom and pop shop, and asked them what their needs were. And a lot of them stated that as an ethnic business owner, that they weren't connected to the resources that they needed. And we have a lot of ethnic chamber of commerce, right? So we have our Greater Irvine Chamber of Commerce, and then we have the ethnic ones, whether it's the Filipino, the Vietnamese, the Korean, the Chinese, the Black Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber. And all of them were saying that, they don't get the resources they need to help their small businesses thrive here. And a lot of time they're struggling. And so when we got ARPA funding, which was the American Rescue Plan Act funding from the federal government, I made sure that we set aside $5 million just for our ethnic chambers and the small businesses that were struggling at the time. And that really got them out of that rut that we're in. They were feeling like they were running out of ways to survive, to pay their rents, to keep their employees. And that got them through a tough time. And so the importance, I hope you're understanding, is knowing where the needs are and then being able to deliver them when the time comes or when the opportunities arise is so important. And of course, supporting young entrepreneurship. We have a couple high schools that have started their clubs that are really looking at educating students on starting their businesses. They have pitch competitions. I've sponsored several of those pitch competitions just because I think it's very important for our youth to understand business dynamic, to be creative, to research where the needs are and come up with ideas that provide solutions for our everyday problems that we're seeing. And also to be very financially literate. I can't stress that enough. I know that we're moving in that direction now, but for the longest time, that wasn't something that was available in high schools. And I think that's important for us. If you guys are going to be successful and thriving and knowing how money works, that's going to keep you going in the long run, regardless of where you end up being. And so how do you get to where I am? It's being engaged, really. It's knowing what's going on in your city, speaking up and sharing your voice, whether it's coming to a council meeting, whether it's connecting with your local elected officials. I highly encourage you guys, if you have opportunities to intern in the multiple offices. Just about every elected official has summer internships, and they're always looking for people. I know in the city of Irvine, we have paid internships that we provide. And so if there is an interest, reach out, but reach out early. Don't wait till summer. By summer, we've already selected our group. So I would reach out probably around March or April. That's when applications start opening up. And that's when you want to get your resume in and your letter of intention in to make sure that you get a seat at the table and really learn how local governments or even state or federal governments work. It gives you a hand-on experience. Howard, who's here with me, started off as my summer intern and did such an amazing job. The 4 interns we had this summer, we hired on through December now. And so it's really giving them the ability to work on policies, to be out in the community and get to see how community interactions are working, hear about the issues. And then, of course, for me, it's, what do you guys think? I always love to ask them, like, how do you think we can do something better? And then, of course, as you get to that state, please vote. Your vote is your voice. Sometimes it feels like it's not going anywhere. Sometimes it feels like it's not being heard. But collectively, we make a huge difference. So thank you so much for having me.